Hey guys, as promised yesterday, I'm here with a video that I said I was going to do. I'm going to start doing NFL weeks after all the teams have played. So it'll be Tuesdays that I post the videos. And I decided to do it a little different because I'm not at ESPN. I'm not going to. It feels like it's going to take forever if I talk about every single team. So every week I'm going to pick four different teams, whether it's, of course, I'm going to have the Eagles every week because that's my team, but whatever I feel as the most exciting games or uh, something that happened, record breaking, stuff like that. And feel free to comment below if you want to have your team mentioned. I can do that. I just want to pick four teams because I feel, like I said, it's going to take forever if I talk about every single team. So, with that being said, I picked the Eagles and the Falcons. I picked the Giants and Jacksonville, the Steelers and the Browns, and then the Bears and Green Bay. And it was hard to choose because so much, with it being week one, so much stuff happened. Rookie players like Sam Darnold and his interception first throw. It was a pick six, but then, I mean, he lit it up. John Gruden and his new team. Uh, and then you had just people from last year lighting it up. Gurley did his thing in LA against the Raiders. But yeah, so like I said, I'm going to pick four teams, and of course, Eagles will be one. And I'm going to pick four things that stood out in each game. So, uh, major points or statistics for the team. So, the first one it will be since the Eagles and the Falcons played Thursday. Um, of course, it was the controversial Julio Jones catch. Me being an Eagles fan, I'm going to say he didn't catch it, but obviously he did catch it in bounds and then slid out of bounds. Um, and I mean, Julio Jones is an excellent wide receiver. He knows how to put space in between him and the defenders. And I mean, he got 169 yards against Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby on the opposite side. And it was kind of like a flashback to the playoff game because it came down last minute and Julio Jones dropped it in the playoffs, but with 1 second to go, he caught it, but Ronald Darby was lucky enough to get him out of bounds, and with the win and the score deflected 18-12. So of course that gives us our first win of the season. And I mean, it was kind of a boring game until the fourth quarter. Well, little bits and pieces. I mean, you had the Philly special 2.0 from Clement, tossed it to Aguilar. Aguilar threw it to Foles again. So that was, I think he had a 25-yard reception. Foles did. So I mean, you knew it was going to be in the playbook somewhere. Um, and you know, the thing that really irritates me, which, whatever, I was reading in different sports columns, but they had the Eagles as underdogs. As an Eagles fan, it's frustrating because I mean you just won the Super Bowl, but and a team you're playing against a team that you knocked off in the playoffs, and it just sucks to be the underdogs. But the motto this year for the Eagles is embrace the target, and that's just what we're going to have to do. Um, and Jay Ajayi, it seems like he left off where he started where he left off in the Super Bowl. He had two touchdowns, not very many yards. He didn't even break 75. It was roughly 62. Um, But I mean, he did his thing. Clement, and that I like Clement. Clement came. He really didn't come out of nowhere, but he definitely stepped up with Sproles being injured last year, and really it was like a 1-2 punch with him and Ajayi. So that, with that being said, I mean, it opens up the backfield and it really shows what kind of team that we can be. So then with that, so like I said, we're 1-0. Dallas lost, the Giants lost, which I'll get to the Giants because they're one of my four teams. Um, but on to the second one, it was the Steelers and the Browns. That was like watching paint dry to me just because I don't like the Steelers. I just wanted to see all the hype about the Browns, see what they are capable of this year. I mean, they have a lot of talent. Uh, R.I.P. Michael Kendricks, his career's over. Should have stayed with the Eagles, but I mean, can't win them all, I guess. But uh, Ben Roethlisberger, he 3 interceptions. They were awful. 2 fumbles. I was flipping back and forth between the Giants and the Steelers and Browns game, and I didn't quite catch. I remember him fumbling once. I didn't see the other ones, but I mean, he just. And I know the conditions with the ball being wet and everything, but one interception he threw was literally to one of the Browns players. It was like the throw was just for him. Uh, but I mean, in my opinion, I think he needs to retire. I'm not just saying that because I don't like the Steelers, but that's just how I feel about that. Someone who needs to get his act together is Le'Veon Bell. I mean, if Connor, his replacement, he had a tremendous game for being a rookie. I think he surpassed over 125 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, over 50, over 50 receiving yards. But uh, yeah, I think he had a heck of a game. The only thing that bothers me about him is his hair. What is up with this hairdo? I and I was reading a little backstory about him. He is from Pitt. Had I can't remember what kind of cancer it was, but I mean it's good that he's battling it and is winning. But you need to find a barber to battle that hair, bud. It's god awful. Uh, it's I, I mean you guys saw it. It's tell me, comment in below what you think of his hair because that is just a mess. I'll take Jalen Mills dyed hair, dyed green hair over anything, but that hairdo is just awful. Um, and I think Bell, back to Bell, I think he's getting a little nervous. He tweeted some stupid emoji, even though it was a tie, whatever. The Steelers are gonna use Connor as much as they can just to show Bell, prove a point that they really don't need Bell if need be. But and then on the other side of the ball, you had the Browns. Like I said, they are talented, a lot more talented than they've been throughout the past so many years with who they brought in. Josh Gordon is back, which he was back. Uh, but you have just so many pieces that they added, and even though it was a tie, I guess you can technically say that their 17 game losing streak is over. So let's see what they do next week. I think, I could be wrong, don't quote me on this. I think that they have the Saints, which I mean, Drew Brees will end up throwing for 700 yards against them if he wants to, because face it, he's Drew Brees. But on to the third uh, game that I selected, and it was the Giants and the Jaguars. Um, Saquon, of course, it sucks he's with a rival team, but I'll root for him. I'll root for him until he plays the Eagles. But being from Penn State, I really wanted him to come out. And I mean, I know he wasn't going to be flashy. That's the Jaguars. Their defense is uh, getting there a lot better than it's been in the previous years. And speaking of their defense, Calais Campbell, this was one of the games I was flipping back and forth uh, from the Steelers and the Browns game. I was looking at Calais Campbell, and he is a scary dude. Like, not he's big physically, but when he has his helmet on, just the way he looks like he could punch a hole through the side of a bus. And I think it's funny to see people like that because, and another person that it makes me think of is Casey Hampton from the Steelers. He had the biggest forehead, so it made his helmet look insanely large. But Calais Campbell, he just looks like a scary man inside of that helmet. And I mean, he definitely shows it because I know he had a sack. I'm not sure solo tackles. I'm pretty sure it was 3. But I mean, he is a good piece for that Jaguars defense and what they could possibly be doing in the AFC. But on the other side, we had Saquon Barkley, like I said, and I know watching him in Penn State, to me, he always seemed like a sideline runner until he got going. And then once he could go from end zone to end zone, there was no stopping him with how big he is physically. Um, he's just a workhorse once he gets going. 106 yards, that touchdown, and he really broke it open with that 68-yard touchdown, which, you know, doesn't surprise me one bit. Like I said, watching him at Penn State, he could once he gets in that backfield, there's no stopping him. You might be as fast as him, but taking him down is like taking down a cement wall if you try to tackle that. Another reason why I picked this game was because I wanted to see the matchup between Beckham and Ramsey. And if you follow any other teams and you listen to Jalen Ramsey, that's all he does is talk and talk and talk. Reminds me a lot of like a Joey Porter or like Asante Samuel when he played for the Patriots, Rodney Harrison, people like them. But I really wanted to watch this just to see the banner going back and forth because we know how Odell Beckham can be, and I think Odell got the better of him. I mean, if you happen to watch that game, Odell seemed to have a lot more space and was able to get away from Ramsey with his double moves or uh, just being able to separate himself from Ramsey. And I don't think he had a touchdown. I know he had over 100 yards. Uh, but yeah, over 100 yards compared to Jalen Ramsey's 4 tackles. In my opinion, I think Odell got the better of that matchup. Which I kind of want to see. I'm excited for the Giants to play the Eagles. I want to see how the Eagles defense handles Saquon. Which I mean, watching Fletcher Cox go against Barkley will be one of my favorite matchups. I think for this season. Uh, just to see how they meet on the line and so on and so forth. And the last game I picked was the Bears and the Packers game. One, because everybody knows about Khalil Mack, how he decided not to play in Oakland anymore, which I think John Gruden's a little butthurt over. But, I mean, it's the business. You go and do what you got to do. I was watching a little bit of that game, and Khalil Mack, I mean, he just was destroying them. And, I mean, it was a comeback game for Green Bay, but if I had to pick a game ball before Aaron Rodgers did his thing, I definitely would have said Khalil Mack got it. I mean, he was just all over the place. 2 tackles, he had a solo sack, an interception for a touchdown, and just the way he got it, it was like just like he took it right out of the air. He had a forced fumble, and that he was getting ready to sack. I don't know who the backup is for Green Bay. Not that it matters because Aaron Rodgers is like a god up there. But he went to sack the guy and took it right out of his hands, and that will be that. But I mean, just Khalil Mack, he will be a force and for the Bears and in the NFC. He could definitely be a game changer. Um, the comeback was amazing to watch. Aaron Rodgers just doing what he does, and it's funny because I have him in my fantasy, and I watched a little bit of it. I had to go to sleep for work, but I have him in my fantasy, and he when I fell asleep, he only had it was the start of it, so he had maybe 5 points, and then as when I'm waking up, I got 2 alerts that Aaron Rodgers is injured, and I'm like, yeah, here we go again. But and then he ended up coming back, and it's funny because that's one of my favorite memes. Is this one? It's the Simba one where he's pushing on Aaron Rodgers, saying, "Get up, don't do this, Aaron." Um, but yeah, he did it in his fashion, how he does it. He once it clicks it with him, it just clicks. I know he had 3 touchdowns, which one was to Randall Cobb, and he just hurled it. I mean, you're not considered one of the greatest if you can't do what he does, but and especially to get hurt from last season to come back, to get hurt to come back. It's just he's definitely in the league of his own. But 207, 276 yards, no, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. He just knows how to come back and win football games. Um, I know at one point I think the lowest was the comeback. It was like 20-3 when I saw it, but I mean definitely the one of the largest comebacks, if not the largest comeback for Aaron Rodgers. Um, and then of course you have to. Tom Brady did his thing. AP with his new team in the Redskins, which I think the Eagles will definitely be able to handle their own against him. Definitely have a lot of running backs we have to watch video on. Barkley, Peterson. I'm not really worried about Elliott. I think they're all hype. Dak Prescott, Jalen Mills will have his number, so I'm really not worried about him. But I do want to, before I forget, the if you guys watched the Eagles game, just to watch the banner being revealed was definitely a moment I'll never forget. And then you have the game was so boring, like I said, but then you had the fans booing them as they went into the half because it just wasn't. It seemed like they weren't clicking, but like I said, that's the way the Eagles fan base is, and then you come out, throw the Philly Special 2.0, and pieces fall in place there, and so on and so forth. But those were definitely my four games that I was excited to watch, player wise, just standpoint wise. So if you guys have any input you want to throw out there, just throw it in the comments. If you have a team you want me to talk about, I'll do that as well. I want to do this every week, and maybe next week throw in some predictions for week 3. I'm not going to do it this week just because, but yeah, so if you guys have any comments, make sure you comment below. Show this video to people who you think would like it. Like, subscribe, and you'll definitely see me next week with my next 4 teams for 4 highlights of the games that I pick. Alright guys, I'll see you later.